Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, whenever you're watching this. Guys, this is our second to last quarterback rankings for the XFL. Breaking it down, this is our week 9 quarterback rankings going into week 10. Big title I had on my article. Obviously, McCarron disappoints. Ben DiNucci sets a record. Here in Missouri right now, we just got done traveling. I'm doing this video a little bit later. I appreciate everyone, watching the videos, commenting. Comments are up, so it's nice to interact with people. Without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start off with our honorable mention. It's going to be Cole McDonald and Kelly Bryant. McDonald had 2 rushing attempts for 9 yards. Bryant had a 1 rushing attempt for 24 yards. Neither one threw a pass. Pretty much what they got going on is still being utilized in that option package, read option, a lot of stuff like that. McDonald more effectively than Bryant. Couple T for Brian. He's bounced around the fan control football league. I think he was with the Bismarck Bucks at one point. The guy played at Mizzou in addition to Clemson right before Trevor Lawrence took over. So it was good to see him play. He played, like I said, in fan control football, was trying to get into the USFL or XFL. He'll be with the Renegades for the next couple weeks. It looks like they're going to be making the playoffs, while McDonald's also going to be utilizing that same role throughout the season, but both those guys get the honorable mention. Coming in at number 11, I got DeAndre Francois. Last week he wasn't ranked. 3 of 5, 20 yards, passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 rushing attempts, 7 rushing yards. Led a touchdown drive. Obviously, Dormandy was pretty ineffective. It's been a shame. He threw a nice little 3-yard pass to fellow fan control football alum Andrew Jamil. It's the third guy from fan control football we've highlighted so far in the video. But Francois, with all the controversy surrounding him and Dormandy, it a little bit limited sample size. Came in, wasn't really asked to do too much as far as reading the whole field, and then pushed on. I think he was in the game for about 3 drives, one of them leading to a touchdown. Coming in at number 10, pushing down our list. Oh, another thing I want to say about Francois, sorry. It's obviously been a very dysfunctional quarterback room in in um, in Orlando. We've seen major regression from both him and Dormandy over the last couple of weeks. Granted, I wasn't really high on Francois coming into the season, but it is what it is. Coming in at number 10, his teammate Quinn Dormandy, 9 of 17, 47 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, 4 rushing attempts, 10 rushing yards. Major regression. Last week I had him at 6. He bumped up to number 3. Now, obviously, not really doing much. I actually thought he played better with the Guardians eliminated from playoff contention. He just looked pretty overwhelmed by the defenders. Not the defenders, excuse me. By the defense, the San Antonio defense. You got Delonte Scott on that defensive line, making things um, very complicated for both quarterbacks moving forward. I mean, it seems like he'll be back in 2024. Granted, he did have that 6 touchdown game that everyone talks about, but hasn't done much since. He bumped from 3 to 6 to now he's at number 10. Coming in at number 9 last week, had him at number 9 as well as Jack Cohn. 25 of 31, 302 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 rushing attempts, 6 rushing yards. A lot of people would say, why isn't he ranked higher? I mean, the only time he's had good games, he had a 3 touchdown performance against the Guardians earlier. It's his get right game. Seems against Orlando, Terrell Buckley's team. A little bit ironic, based off the fact that Buckley has, such a good career as a defensive back in the NFL. I'm not going to rank him higher because he torched the Guardians defense. It's a little bit wrong to do that in my opinion. Overall, while it looked better, he's another candidate to come back in 2024, see his development and whatnot. I think that'd be the best thing for him. Hopefully, he puts together a nice game in the finale, but we will see, and we'll continue to push on. Coming in at number 8, we got Brandon Silvers, a decent amount of regression from him, MVP candidate, going at 16 to 27, 105 passing yards, no touchdowns, 2 picks, 1 rushing attempt for 6 yards. He hasn't been the same since Kirkland left. second game coming off injury. Matty Fresh talked to him after the game. Pretty much Silvers was pretty adamant about them executing. Bandy's hurt. Nick Hawley's now on the Brahmas. He had a good game, 4 receptions, 105 yards. Looking like a lack of weapons. Putnam was healthy, but in the end, this team is having a lot of issues. They're relying on the run game a little bit more than probably AJ Smith wants to do. Last week I had Silvers at 5. He's been in that top 3 the majority of the year. Obviously, not playing well. They still got the win. They're 5. They're 5. Excuse me. They're 5-4 going into the final week of the season. They have a playoff spot locked up, but team needs to play better because whoever they play in the championship, because I think they'll still win. Whether they play the Brahmins or the Renegades, they got to be better. It seems like the Northern Division championship game is going to be the actual XFL championship game, but I'm sure people don't want to hear that. Coming in at number 7, I got Derek King, DC Defenders. Previously, I had them at number 8. He went 6 of 9, 76 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick, three rushing attempts, 9 rushing yards. Overall, they let him throw the ball a little bit. I think nine attempts is the most he's had on the season. I think he's had like 4 before that. Not total, obviously. Through his first interception, they had Teamu out for about the whole third through the whole third quarter. While Teamu's been great, despite a little bit of a lackluster performance, this team continues to win. Good shootout versus the Renegades. Renegades, I think they won 28-26. And if not for a Sal Canella drop on the overtime rules, it looked like this game could go on forever. Regardless, DC's got plenty of weapons with Chris Blair and Lucky Jackson. Chad Ochocinco shouted out Lucky Jackson today, saying that they'll be seeing him on Sundays. King may go to the NFL. NFL is kind of a practice squad project player, but overall, I'd really like to see him put together 10 games in the XFL next year because I do think Teamu is going to leave. Fun fact: DC just added Eric Dungy to their reserve list. Dungy was their 3rd quarterback. It looked like they are bringing in Jeremy Hickbottom from the IFL to come replace Dungy. Dungy's been used a decent amount on special teams. Moving on, coming in next, Luis Perez. Guy's been bouncing all over the world. The Spring King. If you don't know about Perez, obviously he's been with the Spring League. He's coming up on 5. He just passed 5,000 all football yards this week. He went 31 of 41, 335 passing yards, 1 TD, 1 pick, 3 rushing attempts, 15 rushing yards. Honestly, if he doesn't throw that interception to DJ Swearinger, the Renegades win. If you don't know, Perez was obviously on the Vipers, was traded. Drew Plitt has a grade 2 MCL sprain. They opted to go with Perez over Anderson. This is kind of his MO, man. 2 good games. He had a decent game last week. He was number 4 last week. And then a bad game. A bad game. That's usually what he's been doing. Every time you're ready to get on the Luis Perez train, kind of hurts you a little bit. Overall, he's had a decent, good, not great 2023. It's kind of his MO. Don't think he's going to be going to the NFL. Maybe kind of like a Case Cookus option as far as like a late season practice squad option to kind of fill a roster spot. But in the end, it's been nice to see Perez, play a couple games, do decent, and deliver some competent quarterback play for the Renegades who needed it greatly. Up next, coming down the list, I got AJ McCarron and be our number 4, or excuse me, I got Jalen McClendon be our number 4 quarterback. Last week I had him at 3. Mainly reason why I bumped him down was not his actual play. It's because McCarron came back. Granted, McCarron didn't have the greatest game. However, because of this because of what McCarron's done over the whole year. It's not fair to bump him back. A little bit hypocritical, but not really, because the thing is, Jack Cohen's only had 2 good games. They're both against the Guardians. But number 4, Jalen McClendon went 27-37, 249, 2 touchdowns, no picks, 5 rushing attempts, 41 rushing yards, 1 fumble. He's been pretty much the best story in the XFL this year, especially since taking over for the Vipers. I believe this is his 3rd start. He's been extremely mobile, but he's not forcing the run. He's kind of just taking if they don't have a spy on him. Um, it's been great to see. I'm a big fan of McClendon. Uh, really, really excited that hopefully he comes back. Rod Woodson talks about him all the time, about how young he is still as a quarterback. Granted, he's been on 2 NFL practice squads and camps and whatnot. He also had a cup of tea with the LA Wildcats in 2020 in the XFL, but he only threw 4 passes. Each game he gets a little bit better. He's getting more experience, and that's the biggest thing for McClendon. Let's see him get more reps. I know we're talking about 2024 a little bit, but this is a guy to keep an eye on next year, especially with the top tiers of quarterbacks most likely moving on. Coming in number 3, AJ McCarron. Talked a little bit about him. A couple of drops hurt him, but overall he really wasn't comfortable last week. Went 18 of 32, 186 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 picks, 1 rushing attempt, 1 rushing yard. Didn't bring his best game in a must-win game versus Seattle last week. I was at the game. Uh, it looked real disappointing. Looked like he didn't get comfortable. A lot of people have had issues with Bruce Gadkowski's play calling and whatnot. I personally think they need to run a 4-minute up-tempo offense. Right now, it's a pretty wacky clinching scenario. From what I understand, per Mike Mitchell, they need to score 19 plus points against the Guardians. With the Guardians being the Guardians, this is the team to do it. I'd love to see the Battlehawks kind of go up tempo the whole game and just try to score as many points as they can moving forward. Coming in number 2, I'm going to give it to Jordan Teamu. Last week he was number 1. Went 14 of 20, 188 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 2 rushing attempts, 14 rushing yards. Honestly, he would have been number 1 this week based off the last 7 weeks. This is his first pick in 7 weeks. I think he's only got 2 on the year, but DiNucci has just been so good in the last week that you had to give it to him. Last year we saw Teamu in the USFL. He's statistically one of the better passers, threw over 2,000 yards, 14 touchdowns, but he was always on the run. He was getting sacked a lot. The last couple of weeks, he's really settled in as a passer, especially with DC not being as effective on the rushing attack this week. I think Abram Smith had 30 yards or something like that. Regardless, Teamu's been a leader on that team, leading them to the North Division title. Going to be a hassle to play against. Granted, they had the most mistakes they had, but good teams find a way to win, and that's what DC did. And you got to chalk it up to not only Reggie Barlow, but Jordan Teamu as well. Coming in at number 1, Ben DiNucci, 21 of 31, 260 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, 7 rushing attempts, 38 rushing yards, and a rushing touchdown. Last week I had him at number 2. Granted, AJ not being there kind of helped his cause, but DiNucci was on fire this past Sunday. That rushing touchdown he scored was one of the more dynamic plays I've seen him make. Bulldozered Silas Kelly, gave him a concussion. This guy's been so frustrating to watch because he's been so close to putting it together time and time again. And even with his interception, it wasn't his bugaboo. Big shout out to Jim Haslick going for a field goal, by the way, to kind of make that point differential a little bit harder for St. Louis and this wacky playoff scenario. But DiNucci, went into St. Louis, hostile crowd, put it together one of his better games despite the interception, and made the throws when they counted. Granted, Seattle's got Ja'Cour Pearson, Josh Gordon, Kelvin McKnight. Something we saw a little bit was Charlie Teamupau. He is a former Battlehawk. He's listed as a tight end. He was taking snaps as a running back. They were going, 14 personnel or 13 personnel and having their tight end running the football out of the shotgun. It was pretty impressive. Really like to see that. Obviously the signing of Philip Lindsay doesn't hurt, but DiNucci was able to put it all together, have a really good game, and obviously they won 30-12. Really unfortunate for St. Louis because now it just makes this playoff push for them and this magical return a little bit harder. But in the end, both teams are 6-3, and it's shaking up to be a wild Week 10. That's my quarterback rankings for Week 9 going into Week 10. Guys, if you can, like, share, subscribe, leave a comment, tell me who's too high, tell me who's too low. Appreciate all the feedback. And with that being said, guys, have a good night. It's a late night here for me. And yeah, thanks, guys.